Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another daily check-in. At this moment, I'm half crying and half laughing because I think this is like my fifth take. And the reason is because the first take, I forgot to press the record button, which I'm recording this time. The second take, I felt like I repeated what I said in the first video, but I was a click off. The third take, I went to do it again. I was 2 clicks off, and it just kept on getting worse and worse and worse. And then I just finally had my last take I did before this one. Someone come up and asked me what I was filming, so I got distracted and I decided to just start over. So rather than starting over and starting with the check-in that I originally filmed, right now what's coming up for me is how in the process of doing this, I was allowing the stories that I was telling myself in my head to get the best of me. First of all, it was just a coincidence. Oh yeah, I just didn't press the record button. It happens. But then I started telling myself stories as I was speaking to you, and I realized that I was succumbing to what my ego was telling me. I wanted to be perfect. I want to create this awesome video so you can think I'm cool. And what that brings up is a conversation that I just had literally 1 hour ago on a podcast show with Chris Plentis, who is the owner of CrossFit Kana and the host of CrossFit Kana Radio, about ego. And about this notion that part of our practice and our work is to not succumb to our ego. And I explained to Chris that my view on what the ego is that the ego is the axis on which our moral compass spins. The ego is part of the human condition. The ego is not something we can leave at the door. It's something that is with us all the time. So what relationship are we going to have with our ego? Are we going to succumb and let our ego lead, or are we going to lead? Are we going to befriend our ego, or are we going to allow ourselves to let the ego dictate the way that we see and believe the world is, or who we are? The answer to me is no. And that's why I'm doing this, for example. And I can share a story from when I was a kid, which is that I was born, and when I was born, as soon as I had awareness or consciousness that I can remember, it was always based around fear. I was scared of everything. Everything was going to end, and everyone was out to get me, and it just felt like a very heavy, dark period of time. But thankfully, at the age of 6, when I got into gymnastics and I started competing, and with the support of my mom, I was able to separate from those stories. I was able to separate myself from what my ego was telling me, and I found this new degree of freedom and belonging. And with that freedom and belonging came a sense of empowerment, that I am not what I'm thinking. I am not what I think the world is. I am not my ego. But that ego is never going away. It's always going to be there with me. So what am I going to do about that? And that freedom led me to find some success in gymnastics, and then eventually get into coaching, and then find some public success through CrossFit, which is maybe why you're even here watching this video and listening to what I have to say today. And through that success that I found within the space of CrossFit, I started to make some money. I received some accolades. I got praised often and a lot. And what ended up happening was that my ego loved that. And when my ego started getting fed by the money, the accolades, and the praise, it started overshadowing who I truly was. And it started to attract people, opportunities in my life that were not in alignment with my true self. Until recently, I haven't really been able to break away from that. It's taken me a long time to separate myself far enough from my ego that I can now see that I am none of those things. I am not a gymnastics coach. I'm not even a coach. I'm just me, the essence of me at least. And that separation now is allowing me to develop a new and higher degree of a relationship with my belief systems, with my stories, with my ego. And the reason it's a higher relationship is because I am not dependent on my ego to be able to navigate the world. I'm not codependent. There is an interdependency. And that interdependency is there as a way to create contrast. Contrast being the thing that allows me to be discerning, which is different than judgmental. The ego tends to judge. When you have separation and a healthy relationship with your ego, then you become discerning. And why is it important to become discerning? Well, because with discernment, we can make decisions that can positively affect ourselves and others. And it doesn't become one-sided. It becomes a collective process, a collective practice. And the reason I bring this up right now is because as my ego was telling me stories while I was trying to record this video, I had to, 1, be aware enough that that was happening, 2, exercise a little bit of separation, and then 3, try to navigate the waters, which is what I'm doing right now in speaking to you, without allowing whatever stories are creeping up to take over. So that, my friends, is my check-in for today, and that's the work that I'm doing with the stories, my belief systems, and my ego. And maybe this little reflection resonates with you, and if it does, I would love to hear if you have any stories and any ways that you've learned to navigate the relationship with your ego or the stories that you tell yourself. For now, my friends, that's it. That's my 27th take. We're going to call it a good one, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.